This is not a partisan video. I am not going to attempt to sway you to one side or the other of the political spectrum. Who you vote for is none of my business. The purpose of this video is simply to encourage you to exercise your right. Voting is one of the most fundamental rights in a democracy. It's a tool by which individuals can shape the future of their country. But many people choose not to exercise this right, opting to stay home on election day. There's a common sentiment I hold, one that echoes strongly every time someone complains about a politician or a policy they don't agree with. If you choose not to vote, you forfeit the right to complain. You have the power to influence change, to make your voice heard. And if you let that opportunity pass, you can't expect to be satisfied with the outcome. Voting is about more than selecting leaders. It's about participating in the democratic process, protecting the rights that we have, and honoring the historical struggle that's allowed so many of us the opportunity to vote today. To understand the true importance of voting, let's look back at the history of suffrage. Voting rights haven't always been universal. For centuries, the right to vote was restricted to wealthy landowning men. Women, people of color, and even white men who didn't meet property qualifications were denied this essential right. In the United States, the fight for suffrage was long and incredibly grueling. Now, for women, the struggle culminated in the 19th Amendment, passed in 1920 after decades of protests, civil disobedience, and tireless efforts by suffragettes. Black Americans faced even more daunting challenges. Now, despite the ratification of the 15th Amendment in 1870, which, at least theoretically, granted black men the right to vote, Jim Crow laws, intimidation, and violence effectively disenfranchised many for decades. It actually wasn't until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that significant barriers to voting for people of color were dismantled. The sacrifices made by those who came before us shouldn't be forgotten. People literally risked their lives for the right to vote. The civil rights activists were beaten, jailed, sometimes even killed in their pursuit of justice. Women were arrested, force-fed during hunger strikes, and publicly ridiculed for demanding what was rightfully theirs. The right to vote was hard-won and needs to be cherished. When you decide not to vote, you're not just ignoring the present, you're disregarding the past and the sacrifices that were made by so many so that you could have a voice. But why is voting so significant in today's context? Well, the answer's simple. Your vote shapes the policies and decisions that affect your everyday life. Whether it's healthcare, tactics are designed to suppress voter turnout and skew elections in favor of certain groups. Now, while progress has been made, these barriers remind us that the fight for fair and equal access to voting isn't over. It's crucial that we continue to advocate for policies that expand voting access, such as early voting, mail-in ballots, and automatic voter registration, so that every eligible voter has the opportunity to participate. Disenfranchisement doesn't just occur through systemic barriers, though. Misinformation, apathy, and disillusionment also play a significant role. Many people feel like their vote doesn't matter, especially in non-presidential elections, or they're fed up with the political system as a whole. This disillusionment is completely understandable, but it's also dangerous. When people disengage from the process, it gives those in power more room to act without accountability. The fewer people who vote, the more concentrated and underrepresented the decisions of elected officials become. Democracy relies on participation. If you are unhappy with the choices you've been given, or you feel like your vote won't make a difference, the best way to change that is to get involved, not to step back. So, how do we empower voters and encourage more participation? Education is probably the number one factor. People need to know their rights, understand how to register, and be informed about the candidates and issues on the ballot. There are countless resources available to help people navigate this process, from voter guides to candidate websites to nonpartisan organizations dedicated to increasing voter turnout. It's also essential to combat misinformation. Voter suppression tactics often rely on spreading confusion about when and where to vote, what's required at the polls, and what the stakes are in a particular election. We need to challenge these falsehoods with facts and make sure that everyone has the information they need to cast their vote confidently. Another important aspect of voter empowerment is fostering a culture that values civic engagement. Voting should be seen as a duty, not an option. When people view voting as something that only matters in high-profile elections, or as something that's only for political types, it reinforces apathy and disengagement. We need to create a culture where voting is normalized, celebrated, and prioritized. This means encouraging discussions about elections, holding candidates accountable, and reminding people that their voice matters. If you know someone who isn't planning to vote, take the time to talk with them about why it's important. Offer to help them register or go to the polls with them. Sometimes a little encouragement from a friend or family member can make all the difference in the world. At the end of the day, voting decisions every day that affect your life. Don't let others decide for you. Vote for the future that you want to see. And you know what? If things don't go your way, at least you'll know that you did your part. You'll have earned the right to speak out, to challenge, and to push for change. Because when you vote, you're not just shaping the present, you're making an investment in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Till next time.